My name is Zevi Friedman. I daven with you sometimes, chill. I live in Flatbush in the Midwood section of Brooklyn. I currently am the president and co-founder of a internet marketing company, a digital marketing company called Ajaxunion. My partner actually lives here in Crown Heights. His name is Yossi Applebaum. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about how to identify what are good opportunities and sort of summarize those opportunities that you might have in your head, or you might think of or project or see other people have, and how to utilize those thoughts and turn them into real businesses. Before I start, I'd like to tell you a little story. About 20-something years ago, I was fishing in Silver Lake. Well, I was sitting on a boat with a couple guys and using a fishing rod, a makeshift fishing rod, we decided we're going to try and catch something. It was one of my first times going fishing. Anyway, so everybody's bobbing their fishing rods up and down, and I think one or two guys caught a little tiny fish. And then all of a sudden, I felt like a really big giant tug. Like, holy cow, I think it's a whale. It's so heavy. And I tried pulling and reeling it, and I was pulling and tugging it. Everybody, all the guys on the boat, they all crowded around, and we started yanking and pulling and shoving. And it had to have been like the best fish in the whole Silver Lake. And after a while, it was so heavy, and guys were pulling on the string, and they pulled it up, and it was a tire. The moral of the story is, when it's too heavy, generally it's not going to end up being what you were looking for in the first place. If you are fishing for something that's going to turn into that next multi-billion-dollar project that's going to sell to Google through some sort of stock equity reverse merger, publicly traded entity, forget it. It's never going to happen. That's not what you should be looking for. Your goals and aspirations should be to catch a little fish. And a fish could feed you for the day. While there are those lucky chances that happen, that do take place, and while there are people that win those cases, and there are people that go out to, small ponds and come up with giant fish, very, very rarely does that take place. And in our world, we have to travel along a path that is much more secure rather than a path that has unlimited opportunity and potential, because that secure path will lead you to that unlimited potential. So on page 1, I ask a question. Who are you and what is it? Who are you, meaning to say, what type of personality are you? When you're evaluating a business or when you're thinking of some business opportunity, the first question that you have to ask yourself is, what type of person am I? So let me give you a very clear example. I'm the worst with numbers and operations. I can't even keep my own calendar. I'm terrible. I might be a pretty good creative guy, and I might know how to delegate responsibilities, but my personal taxes haven't been done in like 3 years, and I have an accountant. My desk is cluttered with bills that I should have opened. I haven't even gotten to it. Now, if somebody approached me about 22 years ago and said, what do you want to do for a living? My answer would have been, I want to be an accountant. And it was. I went to college, could ask Yuri, and I got an accounting degree. Yes, that was, along with Hanukkah, that was one of the great nisim that ever happened. But I got an accounting degree. Soon after I graduated, I realized I cannot be an accountant. I haven't paid my cell phone bill in like 6 months. And I don't even know what's going on in my personal finances. It's just not for me. I can't be organized like that. So when you're evaluating some sort of business opportunity, think about, who are you? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Are you an organized person, and therefore are you going into a business that requires that, or that requires a good portion of that? Are you an unorganized person, but maybe a very creative person? And are you going into a business that can appreciate and that can grow based on creativity? Those are things that you have to evaluate. There are plenty of online evaluation tools that I'm sure you've looked at and have seen that'll tell you all your strengths and where your best opportunities might be. But I would dig deep inside, and I would reflect on some things that happened in your life on your own and say, was I good at this? Was I good organizing something? Was I in charge of the play in camp, or am I creative like that? Did I write songs? Am I musical? Think about those areas of your expertise where you internally have greatness, and try and utilize something in a business world where you can capitalize on that great side of you. And then the question is, what is it? You know, in marketing, we always ask the question with 4 W's. Who, what, where, and when. Who are you trying to service? Or who are you trying to reach? Where are you servicing them? What are you giving them? What are you offering them? And when are you going to offer that? Those are the 4 fundamentals of being able to be successful in business. If you know who your target audience is, and you understand where they're located, and you understand what you're going to offer them clearly, and then you understand when you're going to offer it to them, you've probably eliminated all the difficulty in identifying what we mentioned before, which was cost of acquisition. How much is it going to cost you to get a customer? The more you know in the W sense, the better off you are. Competitors are the key reason that you're not able to be successful. And competitors are the key reason that you are able to be successful. Is that a contradiction? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, the more competitors you have in your industry, the better the chances are that you can be successful, because that means that there's great demand. And the question becomes, can you have a differentiating factor? Are you special? Do you stand out? And therefore, do you have a USP? Take that acronym and learn that acronym. Do you have a unique selling proposition? Something that differentiates you? Something that tells you or tells others that you are special? Do you have something about you that's going to enable you to tackle those 4 W's and say, I'm the one that you should be using? That's really the key to eliminating your competition. But be careful. Just because you see that there's a lot of competition out there doesn't necessarily mean that you're the right person for the job. How many grocery stores are there? Anybody know how many grocery stores there are in the Flatbush area? Somebody told me a statistics, and there's no jokes. There's 111 grocery stores in Crown Heights, Williamsburg, Borough Park, and Flatbush. 111 grocery stores. That's a lot of grocery stores. Well, do you know of any grocery stores that have a differentiating factor? I'll throw can anybody name a grocery store that has something USP about them? Go ahead. Pomegranate. Excellent. What happened with Pomegranate? They're selling the same exact thing that everybody else is selling. They just created a unique identifier. They just said, I understand that everybody needs groceries, but some people like groceries the right way. Some people really want to have their product delivered to them on a silver platter, and therefore, I believe I could charge a little more. I'll offer valet parking and whatnot, and there's a market for it. They're packed every single day. And trust me, if you go in there, you'll be astonished at the pricing that they could charge. All right. That's our first page. On to the next page. So, a takeaway from page number 1 is, I want you all to recognize and realize that in your business there are going to be 4 W's, and your business or your service or whatever it is that you're offering has to have a USP, unique selling proposition. The next part talks about something called a SWOT analysis. I don't want to get into the details of a SWOT analysis because you're going to have to go through that as you build your business plan. But I want to talk about what happens before you identify a business that you might be considering getting into. Does anybody have an existing business? Does anybody, what do you do?
Security systems.
Security systems. Okay, great. So you know certain things about your business. Anybody else have a business? Go ahead.
My husband and I, who's here also we have a band.
You have a band.
Jazz band.
Excellent. So let's take these two separate worlds. You have an alarm business and you have a jazz band. Let's talk about them for a moment. You want to expand your jazz business and you want to expand your alarm business. How do you do that? What do you plan on doing? Sending out more flyers? Is that an answer? Is it networking? Is it getting into more venues? Is it having more referrals? So the first thing that you have to determine is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for your business. That's if you have an existing business. Let's talk about those strengths for a moment. You sell alarms. A lot of people sell alarms, right? If I were to ask you, the Gemara in Kedushin says, Ein umnis she'en bayaniim va'ashirim. Is alarms a good business? It's a good business, right? There are a lot of people that do very well business. Is a band a good business? There are plenty of bands that do very, very well. I could name a few off the top of my head. Are you one of those bands? It's a possibility. I don't know. But what is it within your business that you could identify and say, this is a strength in this world? I'll get back to that question in a moment. What happens if you don't have a business? Let's say, for example, do you have a business?
Yeah.
Okay, you're looking to what happens if you decided, I want to open up a band. I want to start a jazz band. Besides the fact that she'll probably stab you, but let's say that you decided you wanted to open up a jazz band. So now if you were looking to start a jazz band, you would say, if I start a jazz band, what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within that world of having a jazz band? So let's look at some, if you read through some of these questions here, many of them are right off the internet, by the way. You can see, let's look at resources. Under strengths, we talk about resources, assets, and people. So in the world of 12 volt and installing alarms, it's quite possible that you would be able to find somebody, train them in a week or two, and have them work for you. But in the world of jazz musician, it's very unlikely that you can easily pull somebody off the street and in a week or two turn them into an amazing jazz musician. You probably have a weakness. Considering his business, you could pull somebody right out of 770 and a week later he becomes an installer, an alarm installer, and starts running wiring. You're likely to find one person maybe or two people out of all the people that daven there that's qualified to join your jazz band, which makes your business a weakness versus his business. But yet, you have a strength. Because your strength is that while he's in the 12 volt and he can find employees, everybody else can also find employees. And you might be in the jazz business, it's very difficult to find the talented jazz musicians that you might need. And then once you have that jazz musician, you're able to cultivate and grow with that person and create a whole, a joint effort. Your band becomes your family and you begin to play together at more events and you begin to, whatever it is that a band does in order to be able to become closer to one another and learn the new songs. And you understand your audience, and you, as opposed to when you go from location to location installing alarms, unless there's some sort of repeat customers, which I'm sure there are, but a good portion of the business is going to be the new installs. Probably 80% of the business is going to be the new installs. In your business, probably 80% is going to be reoccurring business. It's the business, the venues that you were in, you're going to play again. Those are strengths and weaknesses. Identifying opportunities. Back to you, you'll look at both of these and say, where do I have a better chance or a better opportunity to be able to grow my business? Let's see here. I'm starting out, I'm not sure what I want to do, but it happens to be that I got 3 relatives that are jazz musicians. Great, there's a great opportunity. I don't know if I'm interested in jumping into 770 and finding a whole bunch of guys to start installation on some project that I have. But I might be able to start off small, take some family members or friends that have that have some sort of knowledge about how to play in a band, and I might be able. That's a strength for you. Opportunities. Let's talk about opportunities. See, in the opportunities, we talk about one of the things in here you'll see about. You see, the third to bottom says partnerships, agencies, and distribution. When you have a business that talks to the public, generally the best way to get to the public is to use the public. It's called second funnel marketing. Second funnel marketing means that you have the ability to allow other people to be your brand ambassadors. That means, let's say you installed an alarm in my home, right? And I liked what you did. You know what's going to happen? I don't know any other alarm installer. So when my neighbor needs an alarm, I'm going to be your brand ambassador. If I hired your band, and you played at an event that I threw, I don't know any other jazz band. Or even if I did, you might have done a great job. You've now created a brand ambassador. You've now created a salesperson without even getting involved in the business, without even hiring me to go out and be your spokesperson. That's what's called free partnerships. Opportunities in free partnerships, okay, are plentiful in businesses that people have unique situations in. Because if I were to, by a show of hands, can somebody tell me how many jazz bands you know? Anybody know more than one jazz band? You know more than one? Okay. Are you her husband? Okay, that's cheating. Okay. Does anybody else know more than one jazz band? You do? You're fired. Okay. I would say that one person out of 20-something people here knows more than one jazz band. Correct? Is that a fair assessment? Okay. How many people know more than 3 alarm installers? Or at least businesses that they're acquainted with that install alarms? Okay, we definitely have a whole bunch of hands that went up. So let me ask you a question. What's easier for me to be a brand ambassador for? Is it easier for me to be a brand ambassador or an advocate for something that I only know one person? Or is it easier for me to be a brand ambassador for, I know a lot of people that are in that business. Life insurance. How many people know a life insurance guy? There's so many life insurance guys, right? So what happens? If I know somebody that's looking for life insurance, then now I have a dilemma on my hand. To that guy, he called me 3 times last week. The other guy, I met him in shul, he keeps bothering me, give him referrals. But when it comes to something that is very unique, and especially, I would say, unique in our world, okay, in our community, you have to utilize those opportunities of making everybody that revolves around you into your brand ambassador. And that's opportunity. Opportunity knocks in the opposite direction. Opportunity knocks to get out, not to get in. Opportunity knocks when you have the ability to go and tell people, get out there. Go and tell me something. How do you create those opportunities? By having free events, by networking with people, by exploring other options when it comes to who you are or what services you're offering. You might not necessarily go and install an alarm system in someone's house for free, but you might play an event for free just to get exposure. Why? Anybody ever think about that? Why would one business, would you go and if you sold, anybody else have another business? Or work for another company? Go ahead.
I have an agency that subcontracts Bali Kriya to shuls.
Excellent. So would you offer a free Balkria to somebody, Balkaira to somebody?
No.
You wouldn't do it. It would cost you money, right? Would you offer, what do you do?
Graphic design.
Would you offer free graphic design product to somebody?
Yeah, if it makes for me advertising, yeah.
Excellent. What's the difference between the two of them? Could anybody guess? Anybody know what the difference? You would offer a free jazz?
The amount of people viewing it.
Depends.
Or
Go ahead.
the amount of people viewing it.
That's a very big factor.
That's advertisement.
That's correct.
Supply and demand.
That's correct as well.
Like the Valkyria one is like more of a selective market, so you don't need to do it for free. It's like how many people have a Valkyria.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the business and what its potential is and what.
It's just a matter of cost. Right? A graphic design, it's the only time you sit does the business, but I don't have to hire an office, to hire about it. It's a lot of cost.
Okay, that's where I'm getting at. I want to talk about that for a moment. Your time is the most valuable asset that you have if you're a professional. Because as a professional, you gauge all your time as an hourly rate. So looking at your hourly rate, say, if I were to spend a certain amount of hours doing something, how much money can I earn? Break that down on a per hour basis and say, all right, I'm worth $75 an hour, or $100 an hour, or $200, or if you're Brofman, you're worth $1,000 an hour. Okay, but nonetheless, you have a value to your hour. The problem with your value to your hour is it's only based on the time that you work. But what happens to all the time that you sit around twiddling your thumb? You have to take that into consideration. So if there are 8 to 12 hours in a day of working time that you would be willing to put into your job, but you're only working 4 hours, you've just doubled your time. So if you thought you're worth $100 an hour, you're really only worth 50, right? Now the businesses that are involved in service by their time generally are willing to give of their time, because it is their time, to lower or to increase their chances of gaining a new customer, because they're also reoccurring services. For example, if you're a lawyer, an accountant, a graphic designer, any service company, the chances are that when you do something for somebody, that person's going to come back. So instead of looking at it as, I'm going to sell you a soda, and the soda's going to cost me 50 cents and I'm going to sell it to you for $1, you say, I'm not selling you a soda. I'll give you the soda for free. I want you for the next 2 years to use me and my services. That increases, that gives you the ability to make a personal investment. You're in the alarm business. Most of your money from the installation, from the alarm, the cost if you factor in a job, there's a big factor of equipment that goes in there. Cost of goods sold is not only your time and your people. Cost of goods sold is the actual equipment, the consumer electronics, that goes into the installation. And therefore, in your business, it would be hard-pressed to say that you'd be willing to go and, wire up an entire building just because you want to be able to say, look what I did. It might happen once or twice. Now, the funny thing is that as your time becomes more and more valuable, for example, if you have 8 hours in a day, as you go from 4 hours worth of work to 6 hours worth of work to 8 hours worth of work, you start shying away from exploring those opportunities to give off free services because you're only considering yourself. However, let's take a look at this. Opportunities exist, okay, based on the second to last one, market volume demand trends. So that means that if you were a graphic designer and lots of people were looking for graphic design work, right? If you realized that your time is maxed out, what would you do? Because market demand you have two options. Option number one is, I can raise my price and be more selective, right? If you have a lot of jobs that are pending in your jazz band, you have two options. You can start raising your price. The bottom of the barrel will fall off and you'll only get the jobs that pay more. Or you could say, 1 second, hold on. I got one team that's doing this job, but I have a couple extra people around. Maybe I got an extra saxophone guy over there, and then I have another drummer. You can start saying, 1 second, hold on. I know this other guy who's looking for work. I'm going to start. And eventually that person or these people, they become part of your team. Those are opportunities, and they're based on the marketplace. So when you're researching and you're trying to identify what are these business opportunities, you have to really consider or take into consideration, what am I doing? What am I offering? What is the opportunity within this world of my service or my product that I'm selling? And what happens when I max out, or when I get to my peak, or when I get to my final stage of me not being able to work anymore? What's my next step? And those are things that you have to consider and weigh when you're looking towards starting a business or improving your business. Okay. I'm going to be done in a minute.
I wanted this to also talk about what if someone has an agenda trying to evaluate,
Yeah.
in other words,
I'm going to get to this in 1 second. I just want to point. I'll focus on this in 1 second. Okay. You got it. Yep. Okay. In 1 minute or less, I want you to look at the second to last slide, which is called the 4 P's of marketing. Product, price, place, and promotion. I want you to look that over. You don't have to look it over right now, but it's very important to identify your marketplace based on your product, what you're selling at what price, where you're selling it, and how you're going to promote it. Okay? Moving on to the next slide. So you have a business idea. We'll reiterate what we just said. So Professor Amit from the Wharton University, Wharton School of Business, one of the most prestigious business schools, was asked the following question: how do I find or identify new opportunities within the world around me? And he said something that I thought was astonishing and is worth noting, and probably one of the most profound things that you've ever heard. Ready? Every great thing that was ever created was a new way to achieve something that was old. Let's talk about that. Let's identify what that means. Remember growing up when you were a little child, your bubby had that big rotary phone that used to turn, the yellow phone hanging on the wall? Well, let me tell you something. You know what it is today? All it is the exact same thing. It says it went from big rotary to press some buttons to some sort of digital thing to me yelling at it. Call mom. Right? But it's the same system. It's just a means of communicating. And how many people made millions, billions, trillions of dollars on just making the thing that existed a little bit better? Right? We want information. We want a map. Right? You used to go to the AAA, you get yourself a map, you'd open up, I'm driving to Canada, let me see which route, you would map it out, you'd take a pencil or a marker, a highlighter, and you'd get there. Well, today, you punch it into Waze and you're there. 5 minutes later, you know where all your police are going to be, your traffic, you're rerouted in all different directions. The exact same system. It's just a better method of getting or achieving what you're trying to accomplish. And his message was, look at the world around you. Whether it's identifying those opportunities to take something like a licensing on something, if there's somebody that has a product that has a brand name or a recognition, and then using it for something else. Do you know how many watches are sold with the name Donna Karan on them? I don't know, but probably millions of them. Donna Karan is a clothing manufacturer. She never made a watch in her life, but somebody licensed her brand. And it's the same way with so many different things. Franchises. There are great franchises out there. Now, if you work for an existing employer, right? Let's say you have a job and you go to work every single day. There might be systems that, or something within there that you say, you know what, why is it that you don't do this? Why can't we do this or something else? Or why can't we maximize the efficiency? And not only do you have to just come up with this idea and potentially say, let me go out and convince somebody to invest in me and do this on my own because I'm in some sort of subsidiary business. Your employer might be willing to invest in you. Your employer might see opportunity to say, that's a really good idea. I like that idea, and you're right about that. Not only are we manufacturing the paper, but we should start buying the forest. And that might be an opportunity that you create within your own existing world. Another thing is listening to other people, whether it's your customers, whether it's your employees, employers. Listen to other people. And he said that all great ideas came from not only expanding or enhancing some other thing, but they also came from listening to what people want. And people wanted to have ideas such as eBay and PayPal, because people said, why do I have to start putting in my credit card? Let me just have this universal place that can automatically charge all my cards at one time. And hence the involvement of PayPal. Or somebody said, why do I have to start selling my product on Craigslist, and it's so difficult and I don't understand how it works and it doesn't look nice. Let me just get a marketplace where I could buy and sell product automatically, and eBay was born. These are all enhancements on something that existed, and also they're ways of experiencing what a customer or somebody that was in that world before around you had frustration with, and enhancing them. And that's my message, and I'll close with that. My message is that sometimes you just have to open up your eyes, see something around you that makes the most sense. When you have an existing business, open up your eyes to opportunities. Make sure that you use the second funnel marketing and expand on the opportunities that are around you to promote your own business. And when you're looking for a business opportunity, make sure that you capitalize on something that exists. The big tire is never going to get you a meal, but that small fish eventually will be able to feed you, and you can catch many more of them. Thank you very much.